Hello, my YouTube friends. I hope this day finds you well, flowing in your own divine flow, following your own inner guidance, being loving to yourself by honoring your flow, who you are, so that more and more of that layer, that sticky matrix stuff can just slip off. It doesn't always feel like it's slipping off, I must say. Sometimes it feels like it's stuck on with super glue or something. So there are these times where things just flow, you're just done with them. And then there's others where you just keep grinding in a way, but just keep being present with it. I want to share a little bit about, how what's taken me to come to a place where what would I call it? I almost said God, but it's such a loaded word. But my soul, my spirit expression, my divine expression, my true self, my I am presence, that thing, um, that had that had to become my priority. And in order for that to become my priority, I had to let go of my other priorities that would constantly take me away from my one and true priority, the deep, deep longing to be fully grounded and flowing in the divine flow. And this is, of course, still an ongoing process when things come up for all of us, right? There's always the choice. Do I choose what is truly real and true for me? Do I choose what deeply matters to me? Or do I choose something that it's an identification that I still want to live out something else? I still want to be a somebody pretending to be separate from God and have that experience. Either one is fine. We are definitely here to experience what life is like when we are separated or believe we're separated from the divine. And so, if that's what somebody's choice is, they have the full blessing to do that from the divine itself, from their own soul. There's nobody saying, hey, you have to stop this now. That usually comes when we have gone so far out that it's all miserable. It's like there's no fulfillment. What I really want is never found out there, and I keep trying. So finding this this sword, it feels to me, in my experience, especially when I've done some of the deeper work, when stuff comes up in whatever way, I just have this sword, and it almost feels like I'm just cutting through all the BS that wants me to believe that I should do this, I should believe that, I should feel this, I should blah, blah, blah. That is the bombardment of the suggestions, the hypnotic suggestions that we are literally bombarded with 24/7, more or less. And in that, we do have a choice every moment. But the choice to be who we are and let go of everything else, that's not for sissies. And that's also not for those of us who still want a 3D or a matrix experience. So I would say it all comes down to, as always, the longing in our hearts. What deeply matters? What do we want more than anything? And are we choosing that moment to moment, or are we choosing something else? That, I think, is all the work so many of us have done for so many years. For me, has literally brought me to, this is really the only thing I want. It's an open heart, it's living from love, it's meeting life with an open receptivity. It's just, my core longing is I am deeply relaxed in the effortless flow and fulfillment of God's loving grace. I'll put the video here. That's one I've talked about quite a bit in the past. And that is always here. There's always like, I know that this is what I want. I can enjoy a lot of things out in the world. Absolutely. I mean, I enjoy, I do aerial fabrics, the fabrics and the ropes that hang from high from the ceilings. I play with that. I run. I just, I do enjoy life, but never at the expense of compromising what truly matters for me. And that is my point of return always. It's like, no, I want this. So if anything is suggesting or tempting me to do something that is not aligned with me, I just won't do it. It's just like that. It's very, very simple. It's like I have my trump card, you can call it, like from what's it called, a royal flush or whatever card trumps everything else. That is what we can meet every situation with. And then we make sure we put that card on top. And that is our guide. That is our sword. And for me, it feels very much like I do have some kind of a spiritual sword. And the more I go there to my deep longing, my soul connection, my soul expression, this sword gets sharper and sharper without hurting or injuring anybody. People may not like it, but that has nothing to do with me following this. And it sometimes feels like it's this sword just cutting through butter almost. There was a time it was cutting through cement, because it was so hard. But as this longing and surrendering to what truly, truly matters inside, when that grows and comes alive more and more, it turns into butter. It just melts. It's like you have nothing for me. So for those of us who really want to be the light that we came here to be, I would just invite you to look at, how often are you not being that consciously? It has to be done because when it's done unconsciously, we don't know we're doing it, right? But that's why a lot of the deeper work is to see what are we still doing unconsciously. And when we make that conscious, that is where we have a choice. And then we can choose, okay, I want to stay in my dream character, or I really want to come home now. In a way, spirituality is very simple, but it is the hardest thing because we are so identified and attached with that matrix dream character. So the only way to become free is to just keep noticing when you are in the matrix, following other people's rules or suggestions, when you are responding to fear from others, where you compromise yourself and then you leave your true being. And that is what we've all been doing that, and many are still doing that. I'm not saying I'm not doing that, but when I become conscious of doing it, then I choose not to. It's kind of that simple. So it has to become conscious first, and that can only happen by a curiosity and a willingness. If we don't want to be fully aligned with our divine soul, it's simply because we want other things, right? Because I don't think anybody is doing anything down here that's not that they want it. And it is not to put anybody down. We all have our struggles, right? And nobody would say, "Yeah, I want my struggles," and I would agree with that. But there are some underlying unconscious beliefs and patterns and expressions that might cause the struggles we have. And So it's not judging ourselves for, bringing in struggles into our lives of whatever degree to whatever degree. It is being curious to say, well, what am I believing? What am I willing to receive? There's all these layers. And once they're being seen, we do have a choice. So if this speaks to you, get in touch with what you deeply long for and then give yourself to that. If it's, becoming famous and successful and rich, if that is really, really important for you, then give yourself to that. I don't think it's just going to go away unless you do a really deep dive to find out what is it in you, in me, in any of us that wants that experience. And then there might be some deeper layers, some beliefs that are not connected with the divine, that still believe we need to go out there to have that experience. Then do it, because in the doing of it, we learn a lot and we might sink deeper. And at some point, we realize, well, that wasn't quite it either. But for anybody to tell you that, it doesn't matter if I tell you that, because you have to have that in your own experience, from your own experience where you realize that. It's like, your parents would say, don't do this, don't do that, or at least that was what my parents did. And I never got to really get my full experience of what it was. Why not, Not that we shouldn't protect our children, but mine was a little extreme and yours might have been too. But that's why we need to create a loving space for everybody where they can go and explore what it is that they really want. So they can, and when you do it consciously, then they can find out, is this really what I want? Because many times when we go out creating what we want, it's coming from an unconscious, um, excluded part inside that simply thinks that that's the only way I can feel complete and whole and loved. And then we compromise, then we compromise maybe the deeper longing that might just be, I just want to be at peace. And then you might catch yourself being completely overworking and overextending yourself and overgiving and compromising yourself. And it's like, well, is that giving me peace? No, but, right? Very, very common, very common. And not knowing how to do it either. So it's not like, yeah, I understand that. It can be very hard when you're fully, fully identified in the matrix to just let it all go. But when we go in and find what it is that's driving us out and away from, let's say, peace or resting in the divine, or just fully aligned with the divine, when we find out what drives us out, then we can work with that. And then new choices can be made. So, my friends, feeling this deep longing that matters more to you than anything else, that is your guidance. And if you need help with that, please join my monthly meeting. It won't be till June, the first Tuesday in June, but you can always get on the late my email list so you can stay attuned to when the next offering is. And you can also reach out to me if you need some one-on-one help to really, bridge that gap between what you really want and what you keep doing, so we can little by little close that gap where you choose more and more this direction instead of that direction, away from what you want. And this will never, ever give you what you deeply want. So it's having that such a deep commitment where everything can just fall by the wayside. You just go like, no, 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 that's not it. That's not it. And things just start dropping away. It's not always easy, but you know what you want and you take back your sovereignty, your divine power. And then you let yourself be lived from the inside out, no matter what. Very challenging, especially in the beginning, because that's when we still have all these layers that are running our lives. But the closer we get, this gets so much more attractive that this is like nothing. So out here, very challenging, easier and easier. And when you land here, then you're connected with what you want. Then you don't need to go out there and try and create things or make things happen that don't resonate with what you deeply want here. Let's give that a try.